Welcome to the Evolution Learning Show, a podcast focused on deep and real conversations with everyday students and the road towards independence. We all want to live a life with a purpose, not just any life, but our own life. And here's your host, co-founder of Evolution Learning, Sam Kwong.
Our friend Winston Churchill once told us, "Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts." In today's session, this is the topic that we've been waiting for. Everett Ohrn joins me in discussing and being vulnerable in discussing the many mistakes that we both have made in high school. Our hope is that listeners and people within our community can learn from these mistakes, but more importantly, to own the mistakes and fail forward. Everett knew that social life was something that he wanted to put a lot more time and emphasis on in high school. However, he suggested that work ethic and focus should not be forgotten about. He understands the price of not getting things done right the first time, but is working diligently on his current direction to becoming a full-time police and cop to protect the people of his city. He mentions that school was never his thing. However, with the help of mentorship and guidance, he now has a direction that he knows and wants to fight for. Everett joined the Evolution Learning community in 2017 and is currently working and upgrading his courses so that he can train to become a full-time cop. We all make mistakes, but owning them takes great courage. Thanks, Everett, for a real and raw episode. Follow and subscribe to our channel for weekly content. For now, sit back and enjoy the show. 3, 2, 1. Everett Ohrn, super happy to have you here today. How are things going?
Pretty good. As good as they can be right now. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm happy. So here's the thing. We worked with you in 2019, a couple years ago. You kind of dodged the bullet here, man. It's 2020, the graduation year. I've heard multiple horror stories saying hey, we didn't have a grad and all that. So you made the cut in 2019.
Yes.
Robert, and correct me if I'm wrong, Robert Thirst High School, correct?
Yeah, Robert Thirst.
Awesome. So here, Everett, walk us through a little, for the listeners out there. So, talk to us about, who Everett is, who the real Everett is, and date us back, honestly, growing up and then leading up until high school. Walk us through the full journey of Everett Ohrn.
Growing up, it's pretty normal life, except my parents got divorced, so it's kind of a tough subject when you're at that age, going through your parents fighting all the time, but I got through it. Yeah. And then basically went through school going pretty good until you got to about the high school stage of life. High school is where things took quite a turn for me. Got into some not so good stuff. Made some bad choices. I'm not gonna lie. If I were to do it again, I wouldn't have not cared as much as I did. I got stuck into this mindset where I don't care what my grades look like. I don't care what happens. I'm just gonna live my life, and that's good within reason. If you go all out with it, it definitely takes a toll on your future, I feel like, because I'm a year out of high school and I'm still trying to upgrade my courses to get into post-secondary, just for some stupid things I did in high school. So
well, Everett, here's the thing. I very much appreciate that you're honest and willing to share about all this stuff, but here's the silver lining, right? It's if you didn't go through that extreme, you wouldn't know and be here today talking about it and being comfortable, being able to share. And you being able to share means that you've overcome the fact that you knew you tripped over crap.
True.
right?
It was a big learning experience. I'm not gonna lie. Helped
Right.
me grow up quite a bit.
So we'll get to all that, okay? Because this is the interesting stuff, right? But Everett, going back, so you grew up and you
Oh,
talked about this, you talked, or we don't have to share about it, right? But
oh no,
so
it's all good.
I'm thinking here, so like Everett, you powered through, and I get it, like, your parents splitting up is, difficult as well. So here's the thing, like my parents, they were together, but they were always fighting. I had three brothers, right? And I honestly thought that maybe they would have been better apart, if I can say that. And I know it's difficult because during that time, like us as kids, we hear it all the time. But I'm just happy that when parents can actually decide, you know what, we're going our separate ways. Yes, it takes a toll on kids, and they want to protect us there, but they also have to move on and live their lives and be happy, right? And so I want to date us back. So when did this happen for you, or when did you first realize this?
I was probably about like I don't remember it that well. My sister got
Yeah.
pretty hit pretty hard with it. I was about 5 or around
Right.
there. Just when you start getting those memories, you know?
Yeah. Hey, my my wife makes fun of me. I don't remember anything before 10. You doubled me, okay? Well, it's not that I don't remember. It's like I literally have to take time to think about, what's happened for me before 10. But getting back to this, here's the thing, Everett. I know regardless if it's for your sister or for yourself, it's difficult for anyone, right? And I here's the thing, I hear about all these stories too, because after a few hundred students, like, yes, not every family has their own story, right? And so I guess what I'm trying to say here is that you kind of realize that at an early time. And so talk to me about, mindset wise, did you feel like you had to mature up a little bit quicker? Do you feel like it took a toll on you, or like how did that all fit in with education?
I honestly feel like it made me less mature, which is weird, but it definitely took me back a few steps with my mom coddling me more and my
Mm-hmm.
dad also coddling me more. It's like double of everything, and it's hard to grow up when they're both trying to give you so much and because they're trying to almost repay a debt to you, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
And didn't really help me that much. Uh, it almost stunted my maturity rather
Mm-hmm.
than building it up.
Right, right. But here, I'll play devil's advocate, Everett. Like, here's the thing: every parent wants the best for their kids, right? And here, when I look at that, the intentions are good, right? And here's the thing:
Sure.
they could have done something, and you could have been like, you know what? I took what they gave me, and I did something with it, right?
Yeah.
I made sure I didn't disappoint them. But here's the thing: 1 plus 1 is never, yes, they say 1 plus 1 is 2. It could be window, who knows, right? But it's like things don't add up the way that it should be all the time, right? And
Yeah.
so I guess what I'm trying to say here is that parenthood, being parents, being a person is never easy, right? But I say this, obviously, I say this as an opinion. I think that every parent out there really is just trying to, give them, and when I say them, their offspring, everything they have. And maybe you're right, because they were in that certain situation. They felt like they wanted to repay you back, but at least it came from the kindness of their heart, being like, you know what, I feel bad, right? I want to
Yeah.
make it up, right? And it's no fault of theirs, right?
Every parent makes mistakes, you know. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it be with the right intention. Well, most times it's with the right intentions.
Mm-hmm.
It's just human nature.
Mm-hmm. But I guess here's the thing too, like to their, you know, to their, I guess, credit, I should say, they were also there to, help support you and make sure
Yeah.
that you had what you needed, right? To go through. And I only say this because I actually met you through your dad, through the CMA program. It's super, super nice guy, right? And
Oh yeah.
it's I guess as they were supporting you and going through, you're still trying to figure yourself out at the same time, right? But I guess, walk me through there. So you're growing up, junior high, high school. How was all of that transitioning, like, for Everett? You know, what were you like as a kid? Interests, hobbies, the things that you were interested in. What was that like?
Um, I was quite the nerd, so I didn't get that real social aspect of life until later on. So when I was growing up, I was into superheroes and games and not so much like even hanging out with friends or making friends. I was quite the what's the word for it? Is it introvert or extrovert?
Hmm. Were you
Not
more
sure.
introverted in the sense where you reflected more of your thoughts inside instead of having a sounding board and needing to talk to someone else to seek validation?
Yeah, that's actually a good way of putting it.
Hmm.
I also didn't really care much about friends. I
Hmm.
was just in my own world, doing
Hmm.
doing my own thing, and
Right. And that was until what grade, Everett?
so probably about grade grade 8 or 9,
Yeah.
and that's when I started actually getting into the social aspect of life,
Right.
where you need friends and to be social
Yeah.
and to have confidence with people because I didn't really have that until then.
Hmm. So grade 9, here's the thing. So Everett, growing up, you know, you were really, a lot of the times you were just making sure that you were happy through your personal hobbies and interests.
Yeah.
And then grade 9 hit and you're like, you know what? I care more about my social life. Right.
Yeah.
And obviously in grade 10, most high school, you know, students really care about having a social life, building friends, having a close support network. And that's not a bad thing. You know, when I say that, I, I guess here's the thing, right? Why evolution learning even manifested was because I had a very tough time in high school, just trying to figure out who I really was, what I wanted to do, why I wanted to do it, and how to even get there, right? Hence why I'm, you know, I left I left the world of being an accountant and I'm here doing this now, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes we need those one-to-one conversations to really get the support that we need so that we can set our foundation up for the next step, right? And
Hmm.
so I guess, you know, Ever, what I'm trying to get at here was, or is, high school is so tough. People underestimate that. It's like, oh, I went through high school, so you got to get through it too. But little do people know that so much of the stress and anxiety stems and starts from the grade 9 and 10 level, which is the high school level. And so I guess what I'm also trying to say here is that high school students have so much shit to deal with. They are trying to figure out who they are. They're trying to have a support group of their friends. They're trying to deal with parents and parent situations as well. They are trying to, you know, this is where the school part comes in: homework, assignments, quizzes, quadratic formula, Pascal's triangle, logarithms, right? All that stuff comes in, and you're expected to study and go through. And even talking about it is stressful right now, right? And here's the thing: it's not stressful for most people because that maybe it comes, you know, second nature to them, right? But I want to hear your side of it. Like, when you were in high school, was it all sunshine and rainbows? Did you feel like it was stressful? Like, what were some of the things that you could share, you know, with me here?
I feel like high school was really tough for me because I was never really the best at school. I think it's mostly my ethic that knocked me there because
Mm-hmm.
I was always about going out and having fun because I had so much of that pent up from being a socially awkward child. And now I actually have friends and I'm trying to go out and live my life. And I couldn't really find that balance between social life and school life. And then school started adding up that I wasn't paying attention to, which built up more stress, which made me want to go out and hang out with my friends even more to forget about it, you know? It's a
Mm-hmm.
harsh loop that I was stuck in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, I hear you, man. Hey, it's hard to be heads down and books, right? And at the same time, you want to be like, let's go party. Like, I want to have fun, right? And let's go enjoy ourselves, right? And so, I mean, I'm going to stay like this for a bit because here's the thing in high school, I like to go to the parties, right? Here and there. I'd like to go enjoy myself. I didn't really, here's the thing. It's hard to enjoy yourself in high school sometimes, at least for me, when you don't know the what direction, like why, the so what behind it, right? And sometimes I feel like it can be a distraction too, right? And I totally get it, Everett, because when I was in high school, did I want who doesn't want good grades? Who doesn't want to come home and be like, hey, mom, check it out, 100p, right? Like who doesn't want that? But I
Yeah.
think what a lot of parents, maybe teachers, people underestimate is the fact that there's so many moving parts in high school and everyone is different, right? I'm sure you've seen the meme before where there's the teacher sitting there and there's all these zoo animals and the task is, hey, climb a tree. And there's a gorilla, there's a monkey, right? There's the snake, there's the crocodile. And it's like everyone is so different. You give one task, everyone's going to do it in their own different ways. And
Hmm.
so, yes, I get it's stressful, but how did you cope with all this? Because here's what I'm getting. The picture you painted me was that you got into high school, all of a sudden you didn't care about grades. And were they failing grades, if you don't mind me asking?
They were borderline, just
Okay,
enough to pass, but
right.
not enough to really get anywhere with it, you know?
Okay, so call it borderline grades, right? And like it's stressful because I've been there. Like I've had 50s, I've had 60s, I've had 70s, 80s, and 90s, right? But getting anything lower than obviously the standard 70 to 80%, it's stressful, right? No one wants that, right? But how did you navigate through all that?
Um, Honestly, I just until about grade 11, I would just not sounds bad, but I just wouldn't pay attention to it. Getting a 50, I just wouldn't look like,
Hmm.
but once I hit about grade 11, that question in the back of my mind, what are you going to do with your life, started to really kick in. And that's where I actually started to try and seek out help
Hmm.
and not just not care about it, you know?
Right. And that's kind of so Everett, that's kind of when we met. And so I'm honestly very fortunate that when we work together, you're like, yeah, let's do this, right? But what got you over the tipping point? Like what got you to be like, you know what, Sam, let's do this? Because I get it. Don't get me wrong. Like I've been there myself, right? I'd rather go to a party than sit there in a tutoring session, right? I'd rather go there than be like, hey, you know what? Let's do schoolwork. But for you, it might have been different. Like what was the tipping point for you?
Tipping point for me, uh, it was definitely a big factor with leaving home and not really having anywhere for a while. Like this, that was probably one of the hardest parts of my life so
Hmm.
far.
Hmm.
Um, Not really having much for a while. So basically, I did, I was staying at my friends' places. I was hopping from couch to couch, and that's when the whole independent part of my life started to kick in,
Hmm.
and I knew I couldn't really support myself when I was gone like that. I didn't have any parents to help. Well, my dad stepped in after a while, but I didn't really have much support throughout all of that, and that's what really drove me to the point of I actually need to kick in and start doing something with my life because I've tried being independent where I'm at right now and it didn't work out. So that's where it tipped me over the edge, and I was like, I gotta actually try, or
Mm-hmm.
try.
This is Everett. This is so interesting. When you brought up the word independent, you know what we're all about at Evolution Learning, right? We're really trying to create a world sustained by people working towards their passion. And the key
Mm-hmm.
word is sustained. Being able to be self-reliant and independent so that, our parents aren't going to be here forever. My parents aren't going to be here forever. And
Yeah.
that one day when your parents aren't here, your friends aren't here, that we have the right tools and skills to be able to survive for the long run. And
Mm-hmm.
what you're getting at here, Everett, is that you tried that early. So how old were you when you went couch surfing, couch hopping?
It's probably around 16, 17,
Oh,
around then.
man. Okay, so you learned this early and you had the balls to do this so early, right?
Yeah.
And so you did this, and here's the thing, it's heart-wrenching to date us back, but I'm sure your parents were like, where is my kid? Right? And
Yeah.
like you're trying to figure yourself out, and don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to dig up dirt at all, right? But I just know that with every obstacle and project in life, there comes a learning on the other side. And when you learn, you grow. And when you grow, you don't become stagnant, right? And you pick yourself up, right? And that's resiliency that you're really developing. But I guess my question is, when when you were doing that, what was going through your head? Because you obviously had your own roadmap, right? That you were working off of, and just like what was going on?
Honestly, I didn't really know what was going on half of the time. I just thought, I'm not happy at home. I'm gonna go out, try and do it myself, and support myself. Uh, didn't work out for that long though. If anything, it just drove me into a deeper hole than I was already in, and climbing out of it was actually, I think, where
Mm-hmm.
I started to learn from all of this and
Mm-hmm.
figure out what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it.
Right.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
And that's essentially what we're really trying to do here too at Evo Learning, because we really do hope that every student that here's the thing, right? We really hope that every student that graduates high school is prepared with the right skills and equipped with it so that they can really run into their own, their direction. And it sucks. I wish I was there earlier, to have met you. I mean, could I have fixed everything? Probably not. But the thing is, you gave that a try, and I feel as if because you tried it, you probably built the empathy. You started to understand how much your parents did for you. Did you not?
yeah,
Right?
a lot I took for granted.
Yeah. And you must have been thinking, and I'm assuming this, so correct me if I'm wrong. You probably underestimated how much rent was, how much food you eat, how much you have to commute and rely on them driving you. I mean, you listed off. I'm just thinking like out loud right now.
Yeah, there's having a living situation, uh, food, having a stable income, not being 16, uh,
Hmm.
and so much stuff. You have to figure out how to get to school, how to get to work, how to do normal human stuff like taxes. I I knew nothing about taxes, or like I
Hmm.
didn't even know that they were taking taxes off my paycheck. I didn't really know that they existed. How to file your taxes. About being there's a lot of stuff that involves being a grown up human being that you don't figure out until it happens.
Hmm.
Like it's hard to figure out.
Hmm. And I get it. And that's why when I'm talking to you now, Everett, I'm starting to see that you're taking on more accountability and responsibility, right?
Yeah.
Whereas I think your mindset you were kind of alluding to at first, it's easy to point the finger at someone and be like, oh, it's because of my parents, right? Or it's because of my family situation. I mean, I did that personally, right? I thought that I had a very big family, and I was, sometimes, here's the thing, I'm being very honest, and this is the worst thing for even thinking about this, but my thought was like, why did we have such a big family? If they only had me, they could take care of me better. Super selfish, right? Super, super selfish, of me thinking that at a young age. I think I was like 15 or 14 at the time, right? I mean, here's the thing, Everett. You may or may not know this, but I have three brothers, and we fought over every little thing. And so, as a younger adolescent, right? It's like if something was bought, let's say it's a video game, or let's say it's a skateboard, or let's say it's anything, they can't buy four of them. They're not going to buy four skateboards. They're going to buy one, and you guys can fight for it, right? But they don't want you to fight for it. And that's what we always did. And that's where the selfish, kind of thoughts came in. And I was like, dude, why did you have three other brothers? Now I have to share, right? And I'm getting to, like, it's easy to point the finger instead of pointing the finger back at yourself and being like, you know what? I have to pick up my socks. My parents already did enough to actually put food on the table to actually bring me into this world, which is super freaking rare. Now I have to be like, okay, if the water's there, I got to pick it up and drink it. If the food is there, I got to cut it up myself and slice it in, right? And so, do you feel the same thing as well, or is that just me kind of all up in my head?
Yeah, it's hard to take accountability into your own hands. It's because when you're in the situation, when you're a kid, it's or a teenager even, it's hard to fess up when you're the problem, and it's easy to say, "Oh, my teacher doesn't help me enough," when it's probably you that doesn't go to your teacher and ask for help or put in that time or effort to get help. It's hard to point the finger at yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's one of the biggest, it's one of the biggest skills I said I equip myself with now, and I'm just sharing it with you, right? Is
Yeah.
that when I live through, you try not to criticize, condemn, or complain, because what happens after that? There's no productivity, right?
Mhm.
When you criticize and condemn or complain, you're just making noise, and no one cares, right? Like, everyone has their problems. Like, if you're talking about your problems, it's like this other person's got a bigger problem, right?
Yeah.
And then when I realized that, I was like, Sam, just shut up and do the work, right? Put in the work ethic, put in the time, put in a good attitude. That's the biggest thing, is putting in a good attitude. And my uncle taught me this. He's like, one of the two biggest things I look for in people is you got to have a good attitude and you got to have good work ethic. And I was just like, okay, can I shortcut this system? Can someone just give it to me? And I'm like, those two things, you kind of have to look, intrinsically to find those. And
Yeah.
so I mean, at least for me, it was tough. For you?
Um, I've always had a very positive attitude.
Right.
I think where it got me was definitely work ethic, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
As you were saying,
Mm-hmm.
work ethic is, I don't know why I can't say it right now. Probably because I didn't put in the
No,
work,
because you're
but
thinking about how difficult work ethic is for you in
yeah,
the past, and you're
exactly.
like, screw this word. No
Can't even
worries.
say it.
Yeah. No
But
worries.
yeah, that was definitely the hardest part for me, is setting your mind to something and just doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I mean, thinking back now, like, you've gotten over high school. Congratulations for that. And here's the thing. It's, yes, we got to cheer on that, because it's, people look at it as a standard norm that, oh, everyone graduates high school, but I don't think so. When you actually look at the world, there's a lot of people that graduate, but there's also a lot of people that don't,
Yeah.
right? And it is difficult, but now that you're graduated and you've been graduated for a couple years, I feel like when you're out of the school system, you grow 10 times faster, because you're not barricaded in the four walls of an educational system that is pretty cookie cutter, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're almost there out in the world. And the last 2 years, I want to talk about that. The last 2 years, what was going on? Do you feel like you've grown a little more? If you look back at high school, do you think you would have done things a little bit differently? Like, talk to me about the last couple of years.
100%. You definitely grow a lot once you get out of high school. I, I picture it, as you were saying, as almost like a planter, and you're stuck trying to grow between this little pot, you know? And once you're out of high school, it's like you're in a garden and there's nothing blocking your path. You can go wherever you want to go. Uh, in high school, there's just people around you everywhere trying to help you or even create a citizen who's gonna help out with society and do their part. But once you actually leave high school, there's nothing like that, and there's no almost safety net to hold on to. So you just do your own thing and learn a lot from it, like getting an actual stable job. I worked construction for a little bit, and
Mm-hmm.
then I decided to upgrade my courses. But working 50 hours a week taught me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Waking up at 5:30 in the morning and going to
Wow.
work until 5 in the evening, it it makes you grow up really fast. So,
Whips you into shape, eh,
oh
buddy?
yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Mm-hmm. No, as Everett, I love how raw and real this conversation is, because as you were talking about that, I kind of missed high school. You know, there's a lot of times where people are like, oh, I just want to get the shit done with, like I want to be out there and be the champion. But as I'm thinking as I'm thinking about it now, hence why I'm still working, with high school students, most of the time, I don't ever want to leave that mind space. And the
Mhm.
reason why I want to stay within the high school mind space is that I feel as if that's the time when you get to meet the most friends, the most people. That's when you have a support group that is there for you. Amazing teachers, amazing resources. Yes, they have many students to work with, but if you had a question, they're there to help you get that answered. In high school, you could make mistakes and you get 3 tries, right? You get 3 strikes for sure. In the real world, you screw up, see you later, you're done, right?
Nobody cares in the real
Yeah,
world.
no one cares. Exactly. And so I mean, I'm just spilling my heart out here, but like I like the high school space because you see people, there's a lot of care out there, and then once you grow up, everyone's doing their own thing, and that no one really cares except your close friends and your family, right? But
Yeah,
everyone's got their own crap to deal with.
even coming out of high school, uh, I feel like people I used to talk to, so many people I used to talk to. Now I
Mhm.
talk to about 5 people, and I'm friends with about 5 people.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, it's
Everyone's
hard
doing
to
their
stay
own thing. Everyone's running in their own direction, right?
yeah,
And
it's hard to
so,
stay connected with people when everybody's branching out and doing their own thing.
yeah, yeah. No, I hear you, man. And so, I guess, going through that now, Everett, like where you're at now, obviously graduating high school, would you? So, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but like graduating high school, would you say it was super easy? It was tough. You wanted to get it out. Like, how was that?
It was it's definitely harder than it should have been for for me. Uh, there's just there was so much stuff going on that led up to me graduating,
Mm-hmm.
and so much stuff that I'd put off that led up to me graduating, that
Mm-hmm.
grade 12 was just go for me. It was just go, 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 because I I had to catch up on all of the stuff that I lacked on in the first
Mm,
2 years.
mm,
So it was definitely pretty hard, decently hard for me to actually be able to graduate.
right. Mm,
But I'm glad that I did it and put in put in the work and
mm,
actually got through it.
mm.
So
Everett, I'm very proud that you defined it as your lack of work ethic and not your lack of knowledge or stupidity or, like things like that. Because, here's the thing. No one is born into knowing the quadratic formula. You put in time
yeah,
to study it. And I'll be very honest. I'm the guy that has to study 3 times, if not 4 times as much as my peers, because they will understand it in one sitting, one lesson. And I'm like, what happened there? What did you do again? What's integrals again? What's 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 the formula again here? Right. And so I think back, and I'm making a point that I love how you said work ethic, because in school, in life, in anything, you put in the time, you'll see the results. You might have to put in more time than your peers, which takes longer, but so does your other peers. Your peers might put more time into something that you're super good at, right? And so I I guess where I'm getting at here now is that you put in the work ethic, and you're saying that, hey, if I were to be, do things differently, you would put in more work ethic. And so now you've put in that work ethic, you're starting to understand, because 2 years out of high school now, you're starting to see what, quote unquote, the real world, kind of looks like. And so walk me through a little, like, are what's on your horizon now? Like, what's your thought process now? Like, what are you up to now? What's your thought? What's your next steps here?
oh my next steps. Right now I'm upgrading my courses
Mm-hmm.
because in high school I slipped by. So I
Mm-hmm.
really gotta put in the work now.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely see it from when I was in high school. High
Mm-hmm.
school, I was almost doing it because I had to. Now I'm actually doing it for myself and putting in the effort for myself in order to get to university. I want to be cop when I'm older. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually putting in the work, figuring out what steps I have to get there, and actually caring about the steps I take in order to make it to where I want to be. Um, so I'm pretty excited about that.
Mm-hmm.
Except for COVID kind of messed things up. I'm not the best at online school, so
Mm-hmm. No, online school, online anything is tough, because you lose the connection, but at the same time, it's something that we're all adapting with. They call it unprecedented for a reason. It's never happened before, right? And so you're kind of going through that. But here's the thing. I'm appreciative that you mentioned a couple things. It's like one where you're like, hey, I wish I'd done things a little differently. But now you're kind of looking at the situation. You're not pointing. I feel, Everett, you're not pointing fingers anymore. You're not saying it was your friends. You're not saying it was your parents. You're not saying that it's too many parties you went to. You're not saying that you went. You're not making any excuses. You know
exactly.
you're literally just putting in the work, right, to get it done. And so
Hmm.
if I'm hearing you correctly, right now you're saying the next steps is upgrading your courses. You want to be a cop. You actually just want to follow that path and just chip at it. And I guess the mic drop is that it's not being served to you. You went to go pick up that task and
Hmm.
said, I want this for myself. Is that true?
Exactly. Yeah. Uh, I could have just stayed in my construction job and done that for the rest of my life, but what it taught me was that I wasn't happy doing that. I wasn't happy. I didn't really like the people that I worked with. I didn't want that to be the rest of my life, and if I didn't want it to be the rest of my life, then I'd have to work to build up to the point where I want to be at.
Mm-hmm.
So that was definitely something big that I've been working towards now, and something I'm pretty happy about.
For sure, for sure. No, I very much appreciate that. And it's what I love about this episode is that I mentioned it before. It's nice, it's raw, it's real. And
Mm-hmm.
I think for me to add on to that, everyone's story is so different, and I love how you're owning your own evolution story, you know? And I think in addition to that, it's, you know, you brought up construction work, you know. Here's the thing, so many people call blue collared, white collar, whatever. Here's the thing, for me, I don't care what color it is. I appreciate the learnings that come from every job. And a point in case here is the construction job that you said. I've worked in construction work before. I've worked in landscaping. I've done a lot of different things, and so I've also worked in the corporate side. Right after university and graduating, I've sat in the corporate office. I feel like there's benefits in both. You know, when you're in high school, everyone thinks that, oh, the corporate job is the way to go. I
Mm-hmm.
almost think that when you go back and I look at some of the construction jobs I did, those were the happiest times because they're so much more raw. It's they say what's on their mind. They tell you like, hey, get your shit together, right? Like we got work, like, or they'll be like, where the F are you, man? Like, wake up, right? Were you ever late before, Everett?
Yeah, definitely.
Did anyone ever roast you for it?
Couple times actually, couple times.
Yeah.
It's hard to
Yeah.
mess up during a construction job and not get roasted for it.
Right. But no, you get where I'm coming at, right? I know it wasn't
Yeah,
for you, but I just love how you can speak what's on your mind. And I felt like that made me better because someone held me accountable. Like, did I actually mess up? And you can't deny it. You look at the time, you're supposed to start at 5:30, and if it says 5:45, you screwed up. It's black and white, right?
yeah.
And so
There's no
it's
excuse to.
yeah, no, there really isn't. And so
Yeah.
no, that's good. So I guess a couple more questions for you before we end off here. Like Everett, you said high school was tough for you, right? And personally, you talked a little bit about why. But let's look at the bigger picture. For most high school students, or at least friends that you know, people that you know, what would you say are the top few stresses, or what makes high school so difficult?
I'd honestly say that um, from what I experienced and some of my friends experienced,
Mhm.
I think the most difficult part of high school is that all of it is dependent on you now. And there's always that big question of what you're going to do with your life. And high school is almost what leads you up to what you're going to do with your life. It's a huge decision, and it's a really hard one to make. And I think that's the most difficult part of high school, figuring yourself out and trying to really do your best and become what you want to be.
Mhm. Mhm. Everett, I couldn't agree with you more there. And I think high school is that time where no one wants to screw up, right? But
Yeah.
I think sometimes you really have to look back and look at it as like, what is screwing up, right? And I'm just walking through. It's thinking about like, oh, I have to do upgrading, and like, oh, I might not join the class that my friends are gonna be at, or it might be like, oh, I'm gonna choose the wrong career and then I'm gonna have to switch out. It's gonna be time as well. What if I this? What if that? But sometimes it's really just not only having faith, but putting time into preparing. But you said it best. I'm taking a word out of your books. It's you got to put in the work. You
Yeah.
know, there is people say it all the time. There's no free lunch. You know, and say and so they always say, you know, there's no free lunch. You got to put in the time. You got to put in the work ethic. You got to eat blood, sweat, and tears. You know, really towards what you want to do into figuring that out. Right.
Yeah. You have to
Mhm.
try and hopefully succeed. And if you don't and you still tried, then you basically just learned from it and learned that you have to try even harder the next time.
Mhm.
Everything is a learning experience, even failing, and you can't really let it get you down when you fail a class, because you can always retake it and try 2 times harder, put in 2 times more effort, and make it out on top.
100%. Hey, as the famous ones always say, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Exactly.
Wise words by the great one. So, Everett, last question for you here. A lot of people define success differently. They have their own definition, they have their own opinion. But for you, what is your definition of success?
I'd say if you are at a point in your life where you're happy doing what you're doing and feel proud of yourself for what you've become, then you've succeeded. Even if you become a garbage man and you're having an amazing time being a garbage man. Sorry, I can't talk right now. Being a garbage man, then you still succeeded. No one can tell you that you haven't succeeded except for yourself. So just follow your inner compass and you'll make it to where you want to be.
Everett Ohrn, man, you're turning me up. Dude, that is the mic drop. That is the mic drop. All right, let's party. I'm kidding. No more partying, okay, Everett? But dude,
Yeah.
that was awesome, man. This is an awesome episode. Everett, I can't thank you enough for being a part of this. And it was really great working with you. It's great growing with you. It's great even learning from you and just, talking through a
Catching
lot
up.
of this.
I'm glad we had this. It was nice to see you again, catch up, and hopefully people hear from my mistakes or even listen to what I have to say and learn from it and don't make
Mm-hmm.
don't make the same mistakes that I did
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
do.
Well, here's the thing, Everett. I don't think you give yourself enough credit, right? Because you it's not even the mistakes, right? It's some of the wins that you actually learned. And you brought up a good point. When people say mistakes, I think of failures, and so many people are afraid to fail. And it's
True.
like, why? If you don't fail, you don't learn about what's tough about that certain task or event. And if you don't learn about what's tough about that certain task or event, you're not going to know how to fine tune and tweak yourself so that you become better.
True.
And so
Like you
now it's almost like I thank the world for failure. Like when I fail, I want to fail 10 more times, right? And it's like, I love when people call me a failure, because then I have every reason to prove to them that it's like, okay, I'll fail at all these different things. But out of those 100 things I failed at, I guarantee you there's one thing that I succeeded in, you know? And so that's all there is, right? And so
Craig,
Everett, man, you're a homie to me, man. Thank you so much for sharing.
you
Don't
too.
look at yourself as like you made mistakes. Let's both be failures, if you're gonna say that, okay?
Failure gang.
Failure gang. Everett, thank you so much. You've matured a lot here. I really appreciate that. I thank you again for being a part of this. And this was a great raw episode. Love it, man.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Always. You're a brother to me, man.
You too, man.
Take care.
Have a good one.
Cheers.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode on the Evolution Learning Show. If you enjoyed this episode, please feel free to like and share this episode with your network or subscribe to the channel. You can also find out more about us on www.evolutionlearning.org. See you in our next episode, and until next time, take care of yourself and each other.